the National Museum of Natural History. Today, October 1, is World Habitat Day, as officially designated by the United Nations and first celebrated in 1986. Intentionally coinciding with World Habitat Day is World Architecture Day, established by the International Union of Architects. Here in the Philippines, October is also, among other things, National Museums and Galleries Month, as proclaimed by President Jose Aquino, and National Indigenous Peoples Month, as proclaimed by President Noyem Arroyo. And October culminates for us in the celebration of the foundation anniversary of the National Museum on October 29, which this year will be the 117th birthday of our institution. As you can see, this is the start of a very busy month for us. Well, all these commemorations are an intrinsic part of the mandate and work of the National Museum, and it is a privilege for me, on behalf of all my colleagues, to commence this month of October in your presence and with this event relative to the national government's public open space development program, spearheaded by the Department of Budget and Management, Green, Green, Green. This is an impressive and potentially far-reaching program aimed at the revival and the rejuvenation of our cities, enhancement of quality of life for our citizens, all of us, the boosting of both competitiveness and sustainability, and appreciation for our cultural heritage, and particularly our natural patrimony. A major component of the Green, Green, Green program is enlightened greening, where, in line with the National Greening Program and Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan, the planting of locally native or endemic plant species, rather than alien or exotic species, is prioritized. This will go far in strengthening efforts to protect, preserve, and promote the unique and increasingly fragile biodiversity of our country, a mission to which the National Museum, through this National Museum of Natural History, is wholly dedicated. Here at this museum, we have permanent galleries dedicated to displaying the geology, flora, and fauna of distinctive but characteristic natural habitats that can be found throughout the Philippines. From mossy, montane, and pine forests of the mountaintops and uplands, to lowland evergreen rainforests, to ultramafic and limestone karst forests of the coast, to freshwater wetlands, to mangroves, beaches, and intertidal zones, and finally into the seas and the marine realm. Wouldn't it be wonderful if the residents of our cities throughout the country could come here and identify plants and animals that pertain to their region and locality, because they will once again thrive and become a prominent part of their daily lives. At that moment, this museum would become what we aspire for it to be, a museum without walls that represents not what is dying or what is threatened, but what is living and flourishing, healthy and everywhere around us, as God had intended and created. This ideal is part of Green, 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 as well as all our combined efforts aimed at sustainable development and enhanced quality of life for Filipinos. As such, the National Museum is very proud to be associated with this event and the celebration today of World Habitat Day 2018. And on a final note, this being the start of Museums and Galleries Month, please allow me to do my duty and encourage everyone to visit at least a few galleries and museums this month. Many of them have special activities. And for our beloved mayors here today, please dedicate some special time to the needs and supports of the museums and galleries in your respective cities, as well as to the needs of our museum workers. So with that, we at the National Museum extend again to everyone our warmest welcome, especially to most of you who are here for the first time. Maraming pong salamat.
Thank you very much, Director Barnes. Before we welcome our next speaker, I'd like to show the short promotional video of the Green, Green, Green program, which we were only able to complete recently. Some of you will see your projects featured there, and we're very excited to share this with you before we welcome our Secretary to give his opening address.
What do all livable cities have in common? Beautiful public spaces where people can move, enjoy, and grow. This year, the Department of Budget and Management launches its 2.5 billion peso fund to provide an enjoyable urban life for all. Across the country, 145 cities are creating places that give their citizens more space to connect and breathe. Through the Green, Green, Green projects, neglected parks will be refreshed, new corridors for mobility will be opened, and critical ecosystems will be protected. This brings new opportunities for all Filipinos to move better around their neighborhoods, live well as new places open for recreation, and grow together as we all move forward to an exciting and greener tomorrow. Green, green, green. Move better, live well, grow together. Visit the website to find out more.
Congratulations again to all of the cities, and we will be actually officially launching the website later this month when we have all of the projects and all of the high resolution images from all of you. So please look for that website and the updated video at the end of this month. Now we will hear about how this initiative grew from an idea just a year ago to the full-fledged program we are celebrating here today. To tell us this story is our Secretary of the Department of Budget and Management, Benjamin E. Jomyo.
Senator Legarda, who is going to come, and Senator Angala. Secretary, okay, Secretary Manuel de Guzman of the Climate Change Commission, Undersecretaries and Assistant Secretaries from our partner national government agencies, the ambassadors here with us today, His Excellency John R. Christensen, Deputy Head of Mission, Alistair Hardy, representing His Excellency Daniel Robert Cruz, UN Habitat Officer Bernhard Bart, and Director Jeremy Barnes, mayors, local government unit representatives from across the 16 regions of the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, good morning. It was less than a year ago when I was encouraged to develop an Assistance to Cities Fund by the League of Cities of the Philippines. At that time, I saw the need for a program that would complement our Build, Build, Build infrastructure program by concentrating on improving the immediate everyday lives of people living in cities. When I was thinking about a specific focus, I thought that what was missing in our cities today are the type of beautiful places that we enjoy when traveling to some best cities in the world. In our drive to build, 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 I thought we should make sure to keep enough green, green, green. Finally, I settled on a fund to enhance public open spaces in cities. And that's how our program came about. With my team headed by Julia, let me describe Julia first. Okay? She's a very passionate, extremely focused, very positive person. Okay? And she constantly looks at solutions rather than problems. And she might as well be the mother of great cities in the Philippines after this program. Okay? When Julia and her team looked into this matter, they discovered that there were many policies that support this vision. We have signaled our commitment to greener and more livable cities from the Philippine Development Plan to the International Sustainable Development Goals and the various climate agreements. Our local government code requires that all cities provide parks, and the newly released National Urban Development Framework promotes the adequate network of open spaces to be implemented through the comprehensive land use guidelines. So we are finally putting our money where our mouth is. by allocating an amount of almost 2.6 billion pesos to the Assistance to Cities program. It is fortuitous that we should hold this event on World Habitat Day. I can think of no better way than to celebrate than recognizing our first batch of proposals. Indeed, there is much to celebrate, what with the level of quality and commitment that has come out of this effort. So far, you have exceeded my expectations. In only a matter of months, we have around 143 projects for approval. 60 public parks, 2 mangrove parks, 21 public squares and plazas, 13 institutional open spaces, 30 waterfronts, and 16 streetscapes. Among 77 cities recognized here today, we have an average increase in the amount of public open space, excluding roadways, of 2.65%. The average estimated number of beneficiaries is 55,000 people per site, with some projected to reach up to 300,000 people every day. This could not have been possible without levels of government working together, contributing support and advice represented by everyone here today. I'm happy to report that many of the projects are clearly drawing from international best practices and innovations, from water management to pedestrian and bike-friendly streets to using local flora and fauna. LGUs are building knowledge on urban design, applying what they have learned in the DBM workshops, and initiating their own correspondences with our resource persons. DBM has set up a technical review unit to oversee the effective utilization of the fund, working with local staff to improve designs, and we will continue offering the LGUs learning opportunities as we explore partnership with the private sector, the academe, and international institutions. I'd like to share one highlight in this area by congratulating Ms. Mona Santiago, the Assistant City Planner from the City of Iligan, who was so intrigued by what she learned from designing the public plaza through this process that it encouraged her to take the environmental planning exam and she passed. So congratulations, Mona. We need more design professionals working with local government, and I'd like to personally encourage the next generation of planners, landscape architects, and engineers to do so. I believe the LGUs have demonstrated their ability to think creatively and be resourceful. No project is the same as the next, as you will see in recognition later. This just goes to show what a diverse urban landscape we live in. With all of the milestones we have accomplished, I can't help but be convinced that what we're doing is a worthwhile venture and investment. And so DBM plans to fund this program every year of this administration until the tides have turned and public space is no longer an aspiration but a given. Thank you all very much for your participation in this program. Mabuhay po kayong lahat.
Thank you very much, Secretary. And as you heard, we'll be continuing this important work for the next several years. So we look forward to our continued partnership with the local government units. I would like to now invite our Honorable I would like to now please invite Mr. Bernhard Bart, the UN Habitat Human Settlements Officer, to tell us more about why October 1 is an important day for countries around the world working towards a more sustainable urban future. Thank you.
Good morning. Welcome to this very important event here in the Philippines to mark the kickoff of World Habitat Day with various events throughout the day actually in the country and also here in Manila. I'm here on behalf of UN Habitat's Executive Director, Maimouna Mohamed Sharif, who unfortunately couldn't come as she is leading the Global World Habitat celebrations, which this year are held in Nairobi, where UN Habitat is headquartered. Thank you very much to the museum for hosting this. Government officials, in particular Secretary Giacomo, secretaries, senators, senior government officials, and of course mayors and local government representatives. The United Nations has designated the first month of October each year as World Habitat Day to reflect the state of our towns and cities and on the basic right of all to adequate shelter. It reminds us all that we have the power and the responsibility to shape the future of our cities and towns. In 2015, World Habitat Day was specifically designated or dedicated to the theme of public space. This year, the theme is municipal urban solid waste management, not directly aligned, but of course there are many connections between solid waste management and well-functioning, well-accepted and loved public spaces. The pursuit of innovative, sustainable ways to manage waste and all of those can of course directly impact on the public space and their acceptance and maintenance. Despite the various themes that we have every year, the broader advocacy of World Habitat Days is really to reflect on the state of our towns and cities and the basic right also to public commons of citizens. And the most prominent urban common is public space. So it is extremely fitting to have this event today. Every October, UN Habitat and partners organize a month of activities and events and discussions around urban sustainability. And of course today, the event starts right on the first day of October, because this is the first Monday of October, and it ends on the 31st of October, which each year for the last few years is designated as World Cities Day. World Cities Day is under the global theme of sustainable urban development, better cities, better life, and this year it focuses on sustainable and resilient cities. Again, also very closely linked to public spaces, to open spaces, to green spaces. The global event will be held in Liverpool in the UK, and we hope to have mayors from the Philippines at that event as well to share the very exciting experiences from this country. In 2015, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development was adopted and came into force in early 2016. Of these 17 goals, Goal 11 is to make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient and sustainable. With one of the targets under this goal is the provision of universal access to safe and accessible green and public space, in particular for women and children, older persons and persons with disability. And the framework or the time frame of the goals is by 2030. In 2016, Habitat 3 was held in Ecuador, and again the New Urban Agenda, which is the outcome document of this event, strongly focuses on public spaces as a key ingredient for sustainable urban development. Your Habitat, of course, has worked on public space in one form or the other since its inception. But since 2011, we have a dedicated program on public space, which uses public space development as an entry point for sustainable urbanization. This program promotes public spaces and is an important element for creating sustainable cities and improving the lives of its citizens. Gather and share knowledge, good approaches, tools and methodologies on public space, especially with local government partners. It engages its network of partners and other urban stakeholders in the global promotion of public spaces and policies around public space, and it demonstrates through pilot initiatives in partnerships with cities the importance of public spaces in achieving social, economic, and environmental, resilient, and other benefits to cities. In the Philippines, your Habitat has been working with national government and local government in sustainable urban development, and agriculture, and two projects stand out that directly relate to public space. The Achieving Sustainable Urban Development project in partnership with HATSI, and the Building Climate Resilience through Urban Plans and Designs with HLURB. They have promoted and demonstrated the planning and design of city extensions in 4 cities in the country, and designs for urban sustainability in 5 cities, and public space is a key component of this. One of the recommendations that has come out of this project, or the first project, is that 50% of urban space needs to be public in some form, including streets, but also green public spaces. We have heard earlier that the National Urban Development and Housing Framework looks also at public space. This is one of the events of today. A launch will take place, and yes, public spaces are very prominently in there. A key component of creating public space is community involvement, and of course the leadership at the local government level. We have, for example, developed the Absaysapa project, a green rehabilitation project in partnership with Cagayan de Oro City, which has proven the power of the effect of dramatic transformative changes that can happen from a bottom-up approach with the partnership with cities is there. This is along an 11-kilometer creek, and I mention this because the city of Cagayan de Oro will be receiving the Asian Townscape Award for this project in Sichuan City in China, also as part of the global Urban October celebrations. The Green program is a strong show of support for the development of good public space in cities in the Philippines. Congratulations to the Department of Budget and Management for its pioneering program. Congratulations to the local governments whose proposals were approved by the Department of Management. It is fitting that the first batch of city awards to be recognized today on World Habitat Day. with the support given by the department to cities for the Green 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 program, Philippine Cities Show the way towards public spaces where people from all walks of life come together as equals and where cities and towns concretely provide for a better quality of life for their people. So we as UN Habitat look very much forward to working with the Green 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 program, and thank you very much for having us here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the words of support. We are grateful to be joined here today by the chairperson of the Senate Committee on Local Government, the Honorable Sunny Angara, to give his support and words of encouragement. Welcome, Sunny.
Thank you, Julia. Good morning, everyone here. Secretary Ben of the Department of Budget, Climate Change Commissioner Secretary Guzman, Ambassador Copley Peng, Ambassador Yanto Christensen, British Deputy Head of Mission Alistair Tuffy, UN Habitat Officer Bernhard Mark, National Museum Director Jeremy Barnes, other officials, Undersecretaries, Assistant Secretaries, Mayors, local government officials, Mayor Christian Atilidad, other mayors. Hindi ko lang po isa-isa, napakaraming po. But good morning to all of you here today. There is a quote from a movie of 1989. If you build it, they will come. It's from the 1989 movie of Kevin Costner, Field of Dreams, a baseball movie. I witnessed how this can happen firsthand when I was a baby JC, or an applicant to the Junior Chamber International here in Manila chapter. Our JC project was called the Field of Dreams. The goal was to convert a 60-meter by 60-meter portion of Smoky Mountain, still one of the world's or the country's largest and oldest landfills in a very poor area of Manila called Tondo, into a baseball field. The residents thought that instead of leaving their children to rummage through garbage and introduced to illegal drugs, a better option for the community would be to have a place for all the kids to play sports. Now there is a football field, there is a baseball field, and with the help of Gawad Kalinga, an NGO, there are many more developments: lights, locker room, electricity. By the end of the project, we were not only able to convert the land into a solid baseball diamond field, we had other projects on the site. Now there is a library, there is a computer room, and this project garnered awards during the JCI National Convention, also in the international level in New York City. The good thing about this project was that it gave birth to many similar projects. Baby JCI Manila projects built on what we started, and to this day, we have had the US Embassy helping. Ambassador Harry Thomas threw out the baseball there many years ago, and with the help from JCI Tokyo, their two legendary Japanese baseball players conduct yearly clinics there, Norihiro Komada and Manaku Kitabebu. There's also now, as I mentioned, a library. I bring up this experience with our own Field of Dreams because it relates squarely with the entire objective of the program we are somewhat launching today. That is to build the green infrastructure. Congratulations, Secretary Ben, for this, so that everything else in a community's development can follow. Greek philosopher Socrates once said, by far the greatest and most admirable form of wisdom is that needed to plan and to beautify cities and human communities. The Philippines is a country endowed with so much natural beauty, but where God has gifted us with stunning vistas of land and sea, lush forests and towering mountains, we haven't done such a good job with building up our cityscapes and ensuring that they nurture life and promote productivity. In short, we have not been exercising Socrates' greatest and most admirable form of wisdom. I believe the DBN's Green initiative is a step towards rectifying that mistake by unleashing the wisdom of urban design and planning experts across the country in tandem with our local government units. No other part of the country needs more redesigning than where we are now, Metro Manila, where unfettered urban sprawl and congestion have suffocated the many green spaces that were once abundant and easily accessible. For one, it's painfully obvious that most of our cities have been organized and set up for motor vehicles and cars, as opposed to people and pedestrians. Narrow, if not non-existent sidewalks make traveling around the metro a dangerous and unhealthy endeavor, rather than one which is enjoyable and productive. A Stanford University survey published in the July 2017 issue of the scientific journal Nature found that Filipinos were the fourth most lethargic or physically inactive people in the world, walking only 4,000 steps or around 4 kilometers a day. In contrast, the world's most active, those from Hong Kong, walk close to 7,000 steps or 6 kilometers a day. Such figures should alarm us, given that several studies have also shown that physical inactivity, due to the poor walkability of the built environment and inaccessibility of recreational spaces, have caused up to 3.3% of deaths in the entire world. Several studies have also shown that there are real mental health benefits to having greener cities. For instance, many have already touted how a simple stroll in the park already induces positive emotions in a person. A study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association detailed the case of how the conversion of abandoned lots in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania into public green spaces like parks and gardens eventually or actually led to a 68% decrease in residents' feelings of depression, particularly among those living below the poverty line. Interestingly, a recent Aarhus University Danish study that related satellite maps of Denmark's greenery with incidences of schizophrenia found that those who did not have access to green spaces within 200 square meters of their homes were 50% more likely to succumb to mental illness. As it is, many Filipino families, especially the metro, have very few open spaces or recreational spaces left to visit. Left with little choice, we are forced to spend our times in malls and shopping centers, bombarded with commerce rather than culture. This is not to say that we have never been successful in beautifying and properly building up our surroundings. On the contrary, the country is full of examples of successful pockets of urban greening and renewal. In Taguig City, we have the TLC Park and Taguig Integrated Urban Farm, where a dump site used to sit along C6 Road. A public park now stands equipped with an activity center, basketball courts, bike paths, and gardens. Incidentally, advocacy of mine is also to have publicly accessible sports facilities. And so we passed a few laws to create sports complexes all over the country. In Davao, in Talisay, in Surigao. Because if you look all over the country, many of our sports facilities are private in nature. Country clubs, which require membership, those and the like. Last December, an integrated urban farm was inaugurated beside Lakeshore Hall in Taguig. We also have the Iloilo City River Esplanade, where a massive effort to rehabilitate the riverside areas, spanning from the diversion road up to Carpenter's Bridge, resulted in the Esplanade. This was inaugurated in 2012, and the Esplanade is now a place for recreation and communal activities. In New York City, you have the rehabilitation of the High Line, which was once an old dilapidated train or rail station. And it's clear that these green spaces also enhance value even for private developers in terms of real estate values. And in Vigan, many of you have probably been to Vigan's Calle Crisologo, which is another example of how focusing on the built environment of a city can lead to massive benefits. Vigan city government and its constituents work together towards restoring and rehabilitating Calle Crisologo, which throughout the 20th century had become a ghost town due to neglect and economic downturn. Today, tourism is thriving in Vigan, and I think we have with us the chairperson of the House Committee of Tourism, that's Congresswoman Lucy Torres, with her husband, who's an avid sportsman and who probably shares our advocacy for more public sports facilities. Mayor Richard Gomez of our home. Sir, ma'am. Today, tourism is thriving in Vigan, especially since Vigan successfully earned a place as one of UNESCO's new World Heritage Sites. And in fact, Vigan's development has been cited as a model for heritage development. Unfortunately, recently, Calle Crisologo was hit by Typhoon Ompong. Several heritage houses lost their roofs and their windows blown off and suffered significant damage. These are definitely fixable. The damage serves to highlight how important the Green program is, especially in light of the devastation that can be caused by climate change. It's not just about making our cities beautiful and greener, it's also about making them more resilient. The fact that there have been pockets of success in urban renewal and beautification only underscores how auspicious it is that the national government is now taking steps to help all of our cities with their own green projects to the tune of almost 2.6 billion pesos. Tama ko ba, Secretary? I recall a 2014 TED Talk from 2016 Pritzker Prize winner architect Alejandro Aravena, who said that the best designed urban projects are often the ones that bring the community into the process. Indeed, because of their community orientation, such projects are primed for success because of early buy-in and acceptance. Today, we will be handing out token recognitions to the 65 cities who will comprise the first batch of recipients under the Green program. It is my earnest hope that the projects that will be funded are ones that have emerged from the ground up or where the community was brought into the process. As the local government chair in the Senate, more should still be done to empower our LGUs or local government units to chart their own destinies and act decisively on their plans to improve and beautify their communities. We fully support such initiatives. We congratulate the Department of Budget under Secretary Ben for such a visionary initiative, and we give our full support to this activity. And we thank all of you, the 65 cities we are recognizing today, for your full participation, and the international community for their support to this wonderful project. Mabuhay po kayo. Thank you.
Senator, I think you'll be very pleased when you see some of the proposals later, some of the renderings that you'll see from the cities. A lot of streetscapes. So we spent time not only on designing the site, but really looking at how the site integrates with the rest of the city. How are people going to be able to go there? Who's going to be able to enjoy this? Making sure that it's truly public and accessible and enjoyable for all. So I hope that you'll be, like me, like myself and like the Secretary, very proud of the designs that the LGUs have come up with. To speak on behalf of the LGUs, we have here today with us the Mayor Alan Relion of Tacloban City. He will give a message on behalf of all of the mayors as the representative from the League of Cities of the Philippines.
Sir.
His Excellencies, the Ambassadors, Representatives, our TBM Secretary, Jumno, Senator Alga.
Excuse me. Sorry.
States and Senator Vigarda, Representative, the Undersecretary General and Executive Director, my Honorable Sharif, Representative, the distinguished guest, fellow city mayors, friends in government, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. On behalf of the League of Cities of the Philippines, let me thank the Department of Budget and Management, headed by Secretary Ben Luzno, for designing this unique development assistance for the cities. This program altered the landscape of Philippine cities. We would also like to commend the DBM for translating the promise to build a better Philippines into concrete action through this Green program. This program will definitely make the cities more livable and sustainable through the development of public open spaces. Will build public open spaces, promote sustainable development, improve public health, increases investments in cities, and improve the city's overall value. This is one of the conclusions of a two-day conference organized by the League of Cities in the Philippines here in Manila 3 years ago. We are already discussing building public spaces even before this program was created. We are delighted to see the plan turn into action. Considering the enormity of the current demand for public infrastructure across the country, the Green program of DBM will address the gap and immensely help improve the livability of urban areas through the construction of parks and gardens, streets and waterfronts, and in revitalizing city plazas. Kanina po, nag-uusap kami ng mga mayors, and we're so really excited, and our hands is really
so open and so warm to receive this reward of our undertaking. We know that more than 50% of the cities who submitted the proposed designs, more than 50% have been approved. And some are saying maybe the DBM could add more incentive to that. But I myself would say the approval is really enough an incentive for city mayors, our cities, in a way how we address the needs of our constituents. We really wanted to make them happy, and we know that every city, its constituents are happy. The Philippines will also be happy, and the world will also be happy, because this is a time where people across borders of different countries will come to different places and to different cities. This program will also help Philippine cities meet global commitments such as the Sustainable Development Goals and the New Urban Agenda. This is aligned with the SDG 11, or make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Particularly, the 11th goal, target 7, focusing on public spaces, which states, and if I may quote, by 2030, provide universal access to safe, inclusive, and accessible green and public spaces, in particular for women and children, older persons, and persons with disabilities. Given the value and importance of this program for people living in cities, rest assured that you can rely on the League of Cities support for its completion. In closing, allow me to congratulate na mga kasamahan naming 75 cities. I don't know what exact figures because our secretary mentioned about 77 and our senator mentioned about 65. But we expect more to be added in the list of the more than 50% of the entire cities of the country that will be given the first release before the end of this year. This receiving is considered a token and added inspiration for us, this recognition today. And the other cities whom are in various stages of completing their green project proposals. We really appreciate, even myself, that many times our design has been sent back, and really to see to it that it's really within the purview of the direction of our country, of the department, that it is not just only providing parks or facilities, but it should be will meet the needs and the desires and aspirations of our people. And we are all very happy, the first batch of this, I would say, incentive and token. You are truly an inspiration to us. Kundi po ba, palagpakan natin ang ating after we receive our fund releases today, it's an assumption. It's just a product of a very high emotion and inspiration. But indeed, we are about to cry because this is really an added color to us, the local judicial units. The real work begins. We hope that the national government, through the DBM and other oversight agencies, will continue to work with cities in creating a better Philippines. After all, livable cities equate to better life for 40 million Filipinos residing in cities. Thank you and good morning.
Yes, rest assured that the money will be released this year because we have to spend more next year. So we'll definitely, by November 15 is our deadliest deadline to release all of the money for 2018. While we wait for Senator Legarda to arrive, I'm going to proceed actually with my short overview of the Green accomplishments to date. So again, we started this project just under a year ago. And the aim of the project was to cover all 145 cities of the Philippines. In the 2018 General Appropriations Act, we allocated 2.5 billion pesos to this new initiative. And the allocation for 2018 was actually based on a formula, 50% on population and 50% on land area. Next. We had a project menu that was a little broad because we wanted to try to touch on, with the Green, Green, Green project, it's not just, sustainability has many factors. So, number one was the enrichment of public open space, creating sustainable and livable environment through such elements such as turfing, landscaping, and green space architecture. The establishment of pocket forest parks, arboretum, and botanical gardens. The transformation of streetscape was very important to us because sometimes we don't think of the sidewalk as the public space. However, it is definitely a public space, and our streets are the majority of public space in any city, anywhere. So for that, we wanted to encourage the installation of eco-friendly bike lanes, walkways, and street furniture that support a friendly pedestrian or environment. And then the green infrastructure enhancements, such as tree planting, construction of even bioswales and pervious surfaces. So a lot of the projects allotted for parking area, we encourage that the parking lots not be fully concrete, but have permeable pavements, and also integrate bioswales as much as possible, rainwater catchment, and other surface water catching mechanisms to reduce floodwater retention. Next. The basic requirements, which the LGUs are very familiar with, that you painstakingly made these steps over the last year. We actually had 2 phases of submission. So senators, congressmen here with us today, you can see that we've really done due diligence on making sure that the designs meet our requirements. First was they have to submit a project brief, which includes the conceptual design, which our team reviewed. Our team of urban planners and landscape architects reviewed every single proposal and provided assessment of that proposal to improve on accessibility, on sustainability, efficiency of funds, or other criteria which we thought would not be fully met with the existing design. So again, thank you to the LGUs for their patience in the back and forth. Some of us had as many as 5 revisions to your initial conceptual design before you proceeded to the technical requirements. The technical requirements include the program of works, detailed estimates, project briefs, vicinity map, as-built plans, site development plans, utility plans, planting plans, general sections, and the omnibus sworn statement. So now all of you are urban designers. Here you have been through this process, making a very full proposal. We know with confidence that the money that's being released will be used in building exactly what we have approved. Next. The allocation per region, because of the formula, it does seem that NCR did get the majority of the funds. However, there is a somewhat fair distribution across the various regions of the Philippines. Next year, we're hoping for a more equal distribution, and we're looking into a different formula for that. Next. The fund allocation. The majority of the projects were under 50 million pesos. 12% were between 500 to 100 million pesos, and only 4% were above 100 million pesos given the formula that we used for this year. So we believe that probably a minimum of 20 million pesos would be good to upgrade about 1 hectare's worth of land. And if we aim, like what we said before, we aim to capacitate and increase the number of public open spaces in the country. So we hope to reach at least a hectare in each city before this program is done. Next. This was our process. Just again to give you a background of what all the LGUs actually went through to get to this point. They submitted the different documents, and we had a series of revisions and back and forth before they were able to proceed on their technical requirements. We wanted to really make sure that the conceptual design was strong so that there was very little revision in the technical documents, and then we just go ahead and release the money. Next. The type of projects. We had 18 projects that are institutional open spaces. A lot of these are plazas, parks in new government centers, especially outside of Metro Manila. A lot of cities are moving from the poblacion to a new complex just near the city center where they've consolidated the land and are consolidating all of their government services in one area. So 18 of those projects have integrated public parks or public space in that new government complex. 21 actually have either the rehabilitation or the development of new public squares and plazas. This is something that is very close to, well, Paulo Alcazaran is here with us today. He's been architect Paulo Alcazaran. He's been documenting plazas around the country, and this is one of the areas where we have a big opportunity to reutilize underutilized spaces. So we have a case where the plaza has been a jeepney terminal, and now they're restoring it. We have the case also in San Juan where the plaza became a parking lot and they transformed it back into the original plaza that connects the elementary school, the local stage, and a commercial center. So the plaza is a space that brings really everyone together in the city center. We have 60 parks. This is incredible. The majority of the new projects that we have are new parks, transforming public lands into public parks. This is a great amenity for all of the constituents in the country. We have 16 streetscapes. I'm very excited about this because, as the Senator mentioned earlier, and as Secretary touched on earlier as well, the ability just to simply move around from point A to point B is a basic right. And if we fix a sidewalk, that can be an impact for millions of people. It's the most inclusive form of mobility. Anyone aged 8 to 80 can use a sidewalk, whether you have money or you do not. You can't afford a car, everyone has to walk at some point. Unless you take a helicopter from your bed into your office, every single one of us is walking at some point in our day. So the investment on better street design will be a huge impact for the sustainability of our cities. We have 30 waterfronts. Sometimes we forget that we are an island nation made of so many bodies of water. In Metro Manila alone, we're bisected by Pasig River, and on both sides we have Laguna Bay and Manila Bay. So we have a lot of waterfront that we haven't maximized. We've turned our backs to it, and through 30 projects, we're actually looking towards the water again and opening it up for people to use and appreciate. And we also have 2 mangrove parks, sorry, not 20, it's 2. We have 2 mangrove parks, which is quite interesting because the mangrove landscape, as Director Barnes touched on earlier, that's highlighted and celebrated in this museum and the exhibits, is a very, very special ecosystem that we want to be able to give an opportunity to, especially the next generation, to see, to appreciate, and then, of course, protect. So, aside from the uses that we can expect from these spaces, of course, it's also the resiliency that will be added to the cities, retaining floodwater, retaining soil, helping to reduce urban heat island effect, and keep ourselves shaded, cool, and protected. Next. In terms of, we're starting to gather data for the first time on the amount of public open space in Philippine cities. This database did not exist before. So far in the 77 cities that are being recognized here today, and Mayor from Tagum, Mayor Allen, this actually, the number increased because, of course, if we say that you're going to be able to come today and have a photo with Secretary Jokno, have the opportunity to be recognized, we received a flood of submissions just last week. So the number actually increased from 65 to 77 in a short period of time. So I'll note that for next year. So far in the 77 cities that we have submitted, we tried to find a baseline based on the comprehensive land use guidelines of the HLURB. 500 square meters per 1,000 population is the minimum. The minimum, that's only a minimum. You can always do a maximum, but the minimum is 500 square meters per 1,000 population. So if we take this figure and look at the urban populations of the cities that are submitted, we saw that 66%, 34% had less than the minimum requirement. and 66% are actually meeting the minimum requirement so far. So we'll continue to update this as we get the rest of the submissions. However, only 12 of these cities are highly urbanized cities. So of course, those that are highly urbanized tend to have less space, whereas those that are not as urbanized, especially outside of Metro Manila, still have a great opportunity to protect that public open space that exists before it becomes encroached and before your city becomes congested. Next. For the amount of existing public open spaces, excluding streets, we had 25%, which had less than the 135 hectares, and 75% that had more than 135 hectares. This is based on the World Health Organization guidelines. So if in our measurement, it's 500 square meters per 1,000 population. The World Health Organization recommends that the minimum should be 9 square meters per person. So if we actually change this formula from the local minimum to the international standard, we see that we're actually not meeting it as much in the international standard, the minimum required. Next. For the overview, to date, we have found that there's a 2.65% of increase in the amount of public open space with the addition of these projects for this year. The range is anywhere from about 0.1% to 5.5%. So we're looking at some significant increase on the amount of public open space in each of the cities. And the average number of users is 55,000. What we'd like to do is measure that within a 10-meter walking radius, because the World Health Organization indicator is how many people will live within, that every person who lives in a city should live within a 10-minute walk to a public open space. So one thing is the amount of public open space, and the second is the accessibility. So although we might have open spaces like Eco Mesa Dam, for instance, it might be difficult for a lot of people to get there unless you have a car. So we want to make sure that these are spaces that are integrated into the city center and that people can even walk there within a 10-minute span. We're looking at the range is up to 300,000 people for some of the sites that live within that 10-minute radius of the proposed project. Next. So just while I have the attention of the LGUs, for some next steps, we are asking that your last day of submission for all the technical requirements is October 31. We need you to please comply with this because we need 2 weeks to do the internal process needed to release the fund. So please make sure that any remaining documents that you have to submit them by October 31. And then just the next day, November 1, we will already be accepting early submissions for next year's fund. Although we don't yet know what the final amount will be, we are opening it up to start the early screening of that fund so that we can, of your project proposals, so that we can fast track the release for next year. Next year's an election year, and it's also cash basis. So our goal is to really reach what we did in a very few months this year, we're going to have to do in about 3 months next year. So now that we've had a chance to get to know each other, that you've gotten through the process and you have ideas, some of them might just be the second phase of what you already did this year. I'm expecting that we'll be able to move a lot quicker since this was the first round. But please start to submit your proposals for next year as early as November 1. And then on November 22, as Secretary mentioned earlier, we're looking at partnerships with private sector, with academe, and with international institutions to offer more knowledge learning, knowledge exchange, and capacity building for the LGUs. On November 22, we'll actually have a seminar by Ayala Land Incorporated, As Senator mentioned earlier, public open space adds a lot of value to private property, and the largest developers in the country are reserving valuable space that they paid for to be parks, to be plazas, to be walkable streets. So we'll learn from Ayala how they are doing that, why they think that's important, and then we will actually go on a walking tour around the CBD of Makati to see some of the spaces that they have designed, and we can learn from those firsthand. So that will be a first come, first served basis, up to 100 participants. So please contact our office if you're interested to join on that November 22. Next. And then lastly, I just want to thank the DENR for giving us the tree seedlings. We are handing out today as our token, you will take home a tree seedling of one of two native species in the Philippines, the karumpit and the golave. So we're very grateful for DENR for donating those seedlings to our cities today. Please go home and plant them in your project sites, and that can be the remembrance of this project. And perhaps in 20 years, it will be designated as a heritage tree on that site, such as some of the projects have already had designated heritage trees in their areas today. And so basically, I would also like to remind the cities to get in touch, please, with the Climate Change Commission. We are working with them on a proposal for next year to consolidate some of the features of the Green, Green, Green into a proposal for the Green Climate Fund. However, the cities can also reach out individually and pursue the People's Survival Fund and the Green Climate Fund through the Climate Change Commission. Some of their representatives are here today. At this point, I would just like to, I think we're still waiting for the senator, so I will have a few housekeeping points, and then we will do a VIP photo opportunity up here before we start the recognition ceremony. So lunchtime will be at 12 noon. It's in the room just next door. The certificate of appearance will be given after lunch at the registration table for the participants here with us from out of town. And just remember again that the deadline for submission is October 31. All right, may I at this point please invite up to the podium the Secretary Jokno with our Senator Angara, the representatives from the international embassies, also our USEC for the Andy Kui from the acting head of the Presidential Management Staff, any other secretaries, undersecretaries, assistant secretaries present here today, and the mayors. If the mayors of the 77 cities would please come up, we'll do our photo opportunity now before we start the recognition ceremony later. Thank you very much. We'll have the lights again, please, for the photos.
Are dirty and full of filth. When the coral reefs are dead, degenerating or dying. When there's no fish for our fisher folks. When our indigenous tree species and indigenous plants have disappeared. When our biodiversity, our flora and fauna are dying or dead. Then there's no build. There's nothing to build on. Because even we, parents, children, guardians, and stewards of nature will have nothing to take care of. And so, I am so confused that the DBM, the source of all funds, and that's the reason why LGUs are in full force, whether it's Richard and Lucy, and everybody present here, Mag-inaanak Noel, and even PMS is present here, when Ben Jokno calls, everybody comes. And so it's not enough that Secretary Ben Jokno calls. It is important that Ben and Nina and everybody here, you call not just for the budget, you call so that we mainstream the whole 3.7 trillion budget into a climate resilient and adaptive and green budget, so that it's not just a percentage of the budget that should be green, but the whole system, the whole ecosystem. Whenever I am told that yes, we must allocate a portion for disaster risk reduction. We must learn resilience and allocate a percentage. I said, no. It is a whole of society approach. It is a whole of government approach. It is a whole of nation approach, a whole of humanity approach. And so, on Museums and Galleries Month, on the first day of Indigenous Peoples Month, and on World Habitat Day, we should make every day a green, green, green day. And I challenge and inspire and hope that all the 145 cities and the other municipalities and all the 80 provinces that will be part of our national budget would adopt and embrace our green, green, green. Let me just point out some very basic tenets of green, green, green that I am certain all our enlightened, wizened LGUs are already doing. Let us make sure that all our public schools, DepEd, all our SUCs have our water catchment. In fact, in the buildings of new classrooms, we should have our alud falling into a self-contained water catchment. It's actually very simple and it makes common sense. Bakit po kailangan masayang ang tubig ulan na palaging nandyan at hindi natin sagapin sa isang water catchment? And believe me, I am not an engineer, but I've done it in my own home, in my weekend little home, and it works. Nakakatipid po ng kalahati ang aking water bill dahil sa tubig ulan na ginagamit ko sa aking gulayan. Which brings me to the next part. Self-sustainability and gulayan sa paaralan. Imagine if each school, each barangay, each home would have its even vertical gardens if there's no space. I actually walk my dog and only eat the vegetables that I grow myself. And yes, I share it with my staff, I share it with my neighbors, I even sell it sometimes and have a couple of thousands pambayad ng water bill at pambayad ng Meralco. It's true. I've even gifted Sunny and my staff. Raise your hand, where are you, Kathleen, di ba? Libreng arugula, libreng lechugas, libreng talbos ng kamote. See it on Instagram, I put it sometimes. Although I don't have many followers because I'm probably boring and not as interesting as Richard Gomez and Lucy Torres Gomez. So if you tag me, they'll probably follow me. So, gulayan sa paaralan and water catchment. And of course, it is important that all state universities and colleges, all DepEd schools, in fact, all LGUs, if you read your GAA, and SecBen knows this, there's a special provision on having a database of our biodiversity. There are 50 special climate and environment provisions. And I hope that every SUC has complied. This and many more are contained in our national budget. And this is what Green, Green, Green is all about. Before SecBen and you, Secmina, mentioned about Green, 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 we were putting this in a budget. I'm so glad to know that this has actually been launched as a trademark, a branding, and a centerpiece program of the department budget. It is said that by 2050, which is not very far away, we will have more than 20 million Filipinos living in cities. Imagine how congested our cities would be if we don't do that marked lifestyle change. So this paradigm shift of greening our environment, greening our cities, segregating waste at source, recycling, and composting. RA 9003 is already a teenager because it was inked 1998 in my first term and enacted into law in 2001. But why is it that not all LGUs, 1,600, actually implemented? But if 25% of our cities and municipalities actually practice the ecological solid waste management law, why can't the 3/4? If one barangay can actually do it, why can't the 42,000 other barangays? I was born in Barangay Potrero in Malabon. Urban settlers, informal settlers. It was impossible to teach solid waste management. But why is it that after teaching them for 6 months, Bahay sa bahay. Tuto. Martial law. War on waste. They won the Metro Manila Clean and Green Award. Why is it that Barangay Nyogan in Tagaytay, seemingly impossible, when I went there it was full of plastics and bottles, and they called me Kapitana because I would go down to Nakagawan, I would walk the street and pick up the trash. Bahay-bahay, tinuruan ko po, kasama ni Sonia Mendoza, my elder warrior on waste. To make a long story short, they learned, and they now have a model MRF in Agulayan. The next barangay of former Secretary Moni Jimenez, Sikat, asked for it. They have it. And many more. Tacloban has been asking us through Mayor Green Romualdez. 25% of our LGUs actually implement this. Please visit my office and you'll see my 5 bins. Why is this an essential part of Green, Green, Green? Because I said there's nothing to green if you throw our trash without segregation. And so it is important. Our food waste and everything that comes from nature can be organic compost. Bote, lata, plastic can be sold, can be reused into plants. And anything that does not fall into those two can go into residual or latak. And LGUs which are compliant can actually have up to 80% diversion, meaning only 20% will go to environmental sanitary landfills. So the problem of NIMBY, of not in my backyard, will not happen because only 20% actually will go to landfills. Then we can have more parks. Then we can have more open spaces. In fact, I am glad that you have adopted open spaces as one of your hallmarks of Green, Green, Green. While I am not against buildings and malls and homes, that is essential, but we must have a balanced life. And so the open space where applicable must be enhanced, and let us plant indigenous tree species, flowering trees, those that would attract butterflies and dragonflies. I grew up in an idyllic setting in Potrero, Malabon. Yes, I swam in the floods, but the floods were very clean then. Yes, I used to catch tutubing karayom, dragonflies, and used to play with, I can't recall, not butterflies, salagubang. What's salagubang in English? Yes, those are my playmates, tutubing karayom, salagubang, at paro-paro. Pardon me, I'm talking too fast and too long. I can see Sec Ben already rushing to his next meeting. So, all I want to say, as your Committee on Finance Chair in the Senate, as your colleague in Congress, as your colleague as a public servant, we owe it to our people to green our environment, and let's start small. If every barangay captain would just embrace green, 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 if every mayor would just do this, then the national government would not have difficulty. So I would like to receive from DBM everything that Green, Green, Green contains, and we will put it and embed it in the national budget, and perhaps put a coletilla for non-compliant LGUs or departments or agencies. We will evaluate the release of funds until they comply. So it would really make it, because who should complain? This is something good for the people, and this is something doable, as I've done it with no extra cost. Because we must make it really mandatory. Otherwise, people will look at it as, it's just a launch. The worst thing is, you plant a tree and you leave it planted, but don't nurture it. It should be tree growing program. It should be not just project launch of Green, 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 and then we go back to our old filthy ways. No. There should be a paradigm shift, a lifestyle change. So on this occasion, I give my 200% support to Secretary Jokno and the DBM and their Green, Green, Green program. And I would, in fact, with the support of my Vice Chair, Sunny Angara, institutionalize it in the GAA of 2019, where the others have actually also been included in the past year's national budget through legislation. So thank you very much for your patience, and isang luntiang Pilipinas sa ating lahat.
Thank you very much, Senator, for that very passionate speech. And if I can be joined with the LGUs, the other participants here today, in just a round of applause and a thank you to all of our special guests this morning who gave us their messages of support. Thank you very much.